Introduce anarchy. Order.
Hello, viewers and listeners. Welcome back to the podcast here, the Home Alone Cast. So, if any of you know, I'm your host, Keanu Knows All. If you don't know, well, now you do know. Keanu Reeves does really know all. Before we start today's episode, I would love you all to go out and support the channel by subscribing. Also, please comment down below any suggestions, and I will get shortly to it. Really, I want to do some conspiracy theories, and send me some links on information about it, because I believe that the internet has been globally dominated by companies that don't want to share any of them type of theories, because they're trying to keep all of that like under the radar, so nobody really knows. And there's only a handful of podcasts that actually talk about these theories and specifics of it. And I mean, it's just a whole lot to uncover that's being covered up. Anyways, today's episode is going to be about Waco, Texas. And it's going to be, I believe, a 3-part series. It could be more. But I know it's going to be definitely a 3-part series, because I want to get into Waco, Texas, the event, in this episode. The next episode will be about David Koresh himself. No. That's the last episode, my bad. The second episode will be about the Branch Davidians, which is who he led. It's going to be about the original cult and how he kind of caught up to it. But we're going to explore the cult in the second one, and the third one's going to be specifically about David Koresh. And at the end of that one, we'll probably come up with a better hypothesis than most people can think of. Yeah, I think it'll be a great series to get into. But anyways, let's get into the first part of the series of Waco, Texas. So, Waco, Texas, also known as the Waco Massacre or the Waco Siege. It was an event that happened, I believe, in 1993. Yes, it was actually months split apart, because originally they had sent the sheriff's department in to obtain and go in there and obtain the guy, David himself. But it did not really, go that well, I would say. It was a law enforcement siege in a compound that was full of Branch Davidians. And Branch Davidians, of course, I'll get more into what they believe in, but they do believe in a second coming and all this. They kind of rose in the 1950s in Texas, and it just kind of got out of control at this point in the 90s. But anyways, it started out with the sheriff's department and all, and then later on the FBI would show up. But really what escalated a lot of things was the ATF agents came in, and they failed to attempt with a search and arrest warrant, and they ended up having a gunfight with the Branch Davidians, and they killed 6 of the cult members, but 4 of their agents had died. And then shortly after, days later, they would get the military to get in on this as well. And how they did it was they shot tear gas into the building, and then shortly after that, the whole compound caught on fire. And a lot of people died. 76 people, which were the members of the Branch Davidian community, had died. And that included 2 women who I believe were pregnant at the time, and 25 children had died. And also David Koresh himself, the leader of the whole cult member and all of this. He had basically died. So yeah, it was the end of that. But it shows here that the siege had lasted 51 days total. And yeah, that's about it there. Wow. Okay, so here's the theories. Here's the conspiracy theories. So theories state that the FBI actually lied about how the fire started. And because they had came out, the FBI actually did admit that they used the tear gas. It was incendiary as well. But they kept maintaining that it did not catch on fire because of that tear gas. It was actually the Davidians that burnt the whole compound down. And in order to prove this, they got arson investigators in on this. And of course, they sided with the ATF agents and the FBI and military and all. Another thing to note is that the HQ, this compound, was the Mount Carmel Center in Axtell, Texas. It was right near Waco, Texas. It was only a few miles out. And the reason of importance for this whole situation is because it actually got brought back to attention during the whole Far Cry 5 release. And Far Cry is pretty good at, portraying villains and all that. But to be honest, I got really interested because once I had beaten the game, I had figured out that that it seemed like the villain wasn't so bad after all. In the end, at least he was right on some things. He was horrible, but I mean, he wasn't wrong on some things. And this led me to go and investigate. And yeah, I mean, there's not really much to say. I want to come out with my full theory, but I will say, for the FBI to claim that, I can definitely see why people could say that the FBI lied. You can't really trust these agencies anymore, not in today's standards, and they've covered up a lot of shit. Even the JFK assassinations they've covered up, and it's just kind of gotten to where, how do you know it's fully real, How do you know people just don't, make up evidence in order to shut down theories? It's crazy, Now, I'm not one of these QAnon people who say, oh yeah, this is going to happen, and it doesn't. I'm just an unbiased guy who's looking for the right answers, or at least has a hypothesis on a couple things. But according to this, I do think the FBI lied about it. I don't believe the Davidians would just, unless David himself could have possibly did that because he didn't want anybody coming out and speaking out about, the whole cult thing. And I can see that, considering, I'll get into it later, but David wasn't great, as in, he kind of raped people. And I don't mean kind of, but he actually did do that. And he abused children and all. He had freaking, I don't know how many wives, but it was a lot. And I was like, holy shit, this dude was more fucked up than most people seem to think. So yeah, I can see it two different ways though. I can still see the FBI not being so truthful with their side of the whole thing. And yeah, so that's the end of this episode for now. The next one will be on the Branch Davidian cult and how it led up. And well, it'll kind of be like a prequel to this one. The third one will actually also be a prequel to this one as well. This is kind of like the last part, chronologically, because the other two are kind of led tos for this whole situation. But yeah, at least you know what happened in Waco. do more research, I suggest. I kind of gave you a baseline. I always give baselines to these conspiracy theories. And if I get any new information about it, I've been reading other articles, what people think, and, kind of been putting the pieces together slowly. And I always do, I'm not one that just leaves this alone after one episode. I always will mention, if I do get a new piece of info, I will always mention it into the next podcast episode or in a later one to clear things up maybe, or to add in saying, hey, remember this, this and this. Yeah. But anyways, thank you for listening in, listeners and viewers at home. Hope you all have a good night, and see you in the next episode.